Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Meat Suit. Today, I have quite an extraordinary guest, and it's going to take me about 5 minutes to read out his life history. I'm joined by Robert Papalia, who was born in Italy but grew up in Montreal. He was the youngest president of the stock exchange in Canada, I'm assuming, at 24. He got his first gold mines in 1969, which is the year I was born. He was very influential in bringing black music to Canada, was a rock star, and smoked his first joint with Jimi Hendrix. This is just getting too good. Owned many companies in the stock market. The CISC asked him and his brother to become spies to bring down the Montreal Stock Exchange. He knows that there's been aliens on his mining properties. He's owned a bank, and the cabal arrested him twice, and he's been exonerated twice, in London in 1976 and Milan in 2007. Wow. I don't know what to say for that intro. Robert, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very fine. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Mark.
That's you know, I thought I had a good CV. Well,
well, you know, it's been a long time. Up to 1970, I was lucky going around and lucky and up and everything else. To me, black was black, white was white, and everybody was doing a proper job. The establishment was supposed to look after us and all that, until I got into my first jam. Actually, it happened right in England, in London. And we got arrested there. Myself, my brother, and a partner of mine. I already had a broken string in it at the time. And the accusers of the time, this was 1977, the accusers of the time of a conspiracy to defraud England and everybody else of $277 billion. Mind you, at that time, the US budget was $146 billion that year.
that's quite a big amount of money.
So you can imagine the kind of news hysteria that went on that. Make the story short, that ended up to be the longest case in British legal history. It was 723 days. Most of it at the Old Bailey, to the exception of the first 6 months, was on committal. And there's a book written about that. It's a crazy story because at the time we were fighting, and we pulled a few numbers on the local authorities, including an escape from a magistrate's court, which became a wild manhunt in London. It took 5 days. They blocked practically 12 city blocks. It was 5,000 lobbies. Finally, they got some of us. I wasn't able to get out because the magistrate court, the whole was blocked. But 3 of them got away, and then 2 of them got captured again. After that, we ended up at the Old Bailey, and I really learned how corrupt the system was, because they wouldn't take no for an answer, you see. And they made themselves so silly at the Old Bailey, which became like a joke. But anyway, we beat them, and I thought the problem was over, established and everything else. But I had to learn a bit more during those times of really what the establishment was about, you know. Up to then, I believe we were in the Commonwealth, Canada, we're under the Queen of England, everybody's nice, and everything else. Well, appearances, yes, but the corruption that's in those places, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And one thing we managed to do is to destroy the Serious Crime Squad, which up to that time was the squad that was hunting the Irish, parentheses, terrorists and all that. And after that, after us, it got disbanded. And one good thing I must say about Scotland Yard, after the case was over, they called us in and said, we'll give you 3 bodies. And 3 of the inspectors on the particular squad got transferred. One went to direct traffic in Liverpool and all that, and the whole squad got disbanded.
Wow.
And actually, and that was the first battle with them. I've been involved in a lot of leading edge technologies. For example, I was involved in the development of the fractal technology for motion pictures and still pictures and all that. And again, to see this was in the United States. And I was attacked because they had to take the technology from us, which they did. Including they got one of the main scientists we had disappeared, never to be found again. Except he was a very known personality. He was actually a musician back in the early 70s from Iron Butterfly. He was the bass player of Iron Butterfly, Taylor Kramer. And he disappeared.
Has he ever been found?
Nope. They said they found a body 2 years later. He had gone to, well, in that one, we were in a battle with the Citigroup and a Canadian bank. And we were under Section 144. We managed to take it away from them. They were trying to take possession of it. And after that, we got approached. We were voted the best technology at the complex in 1991. And there was a lot of the big American companies, Microsoft, with Gates, and WorldCom, which at the time was the largest communication company in the United States. We preferred to go with WorldCom at that time to be our development partner and to commercialize our technologies. And that's when they started that whole publicity, super highway of communication and all that. Mm-hmm. But one important part of that, when they came to introduce themselves, WorldCom, a fellow by the name of Peter Olson, comes along and introduces himself. He shakes my hands and says, "I'm half human and half Palladian."
Really?
Yeah.
And had you ever heard of the Palladians at that point?
I never heard of the Palladians. I don't know. I was a bit taken aback with that, and I said, "Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Sicilian," which I'm not, but
the
anyway,
Palladian Sicilian Alliance.
Yeah, right. Then I started doing some research when I was living in LA at the time, and I started going every weekend, spending 2 days visiting all these people doing seances, crystals, and things. And one interesting thing happens. There's a Palladian, there's a channeler, which is going to be doing a channel in Santa Monica at the library. So I got my secretary and we go there. There was about 35 people, 40 people in this big hall, all sitting in a round with chairs all around. Nobody introduced themselves to anybody, nor we had to sign in to go in or anything like that. Then all of a sudden, this fellow appears. I would describe him right now like a Norton, blonde hair, muscular, but he comes along and he's calling, hold your hands, and energy flows around for about 5 minutes of that. Then he stops and goes to everyone individually by first name. He gets to me, Robert, and he's telling me exactly where I'm at emotionally and everything else at that particular time. But I never met the guy in my life. So I started looking more into these things, and that's really when I started waking a bit up more about other lives being on Earth. You know, before that, really, I had no time. I was busy, work all the time. Yeah, things were happening around. I thought the system was not really what it's supposed to be or what they were portraying, but I never tied everything together.
Yeah,
I knew the Vatican is what it is, and the financial markets are what they are. But I never thought really of looking into this pyramid of power of the three city-states, or how they were holding things up.
Yeah.
And I got more involved into this alien situation because on the relation we had with these fellows from MCI, we got invited at their headquarters once we signed up our deals and everything else to get each other to know each other better. It was 5 of us, 6 of us actually went to Colorado Springs, and we spent the first day in their company headquarters making our plans with the directors of MCI. And we get invited by this fellow, Peter Olson, the Palladian, at his house for dinner that night. We're there, Colorado Springs, a beautiful place. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's spectacular. And he's got this house overlooking this beautiful valley. And we're on the terrace having drinks. Was about 12 of us. He had 3 more guests with him. And he refers to a fellow next to him and asked me, he says, how old do you think he is? I look at the guy, I said, 30, 32. No, he's 77 or 78 years old. And he does intergalactic traveling and all that. And at the time I was with one of the Jackson brothers. I had the lawyer, Mike Fernandez. He used to be the ex-lawyer of Jimmy Carter when he was president. And 2 of the technicians, Taylor Kramer, and 2 more people from the company, myself. And we look at each other, and the fellow goes, can I go further? Of course. So he invites us to go down to his basement, and he's got like a movie theater set up down there. And he starts playing this film, and this fellow he had pointed out to me is lying on a medical bed with white underwear on, and they go in back of him, and he's lying with his face down on this bed, and they take this meat hooks that butchers use to hang up cows or things, and they put 6 of them, 2 in the back here, 2 in the back, and 2 in the back of the legs. And he says, oh, there's no blood. I had just about enough of this. And I said, oh, Peter, I need to use your washroom. So he says, oh, you know what, it's upstairs. So go upstairs. I go upstairs. I go into the terrace, and I'm calling my brother in Canada, my twin brother. I said, I'm here with a bunch of crazy people. He says, no, I got to tell you what happened to me last night. So we start talking about the bunch of the things that were happening in Colorado Springs, and he's starting to tell me, says, I was driving to Port Douglas, which is one of our mining sites. To go up there from Vancouver, it's about 270 kilometers. The last time per kilometers, it's a dirt road for logging. I said, and we were getting to Deadman's Curve, which is a place we had called it, that curve. That's the name we were given to it because it's a very steep curve, and you go over 25 kilometers an hour on that one. And you go right over and flip, and you go down maybe 200 yards in a little valley. And every year there's 2 or 3 tourists that go up there with their campers and things, finish off down. Now they fixed it, but it used to be like that. So I was getting into that. The fellow he was going with asked him, he says, Tony, I'm a bit hungry. When will we get into camp? He says, it's about that place is 11 kilometers from camp. He says, 15 minutes, we're going to be at camp. He said, as I was getting into the curve, I got engulfed by this white light. And the next thing I know, I'm in a car driving in a dirt road at about 90 clicks an hour. I slam on the brakes. Summer, the dust was all over the place. Took about 3 or 4 minutes to get the dust settled. And he says, I was on the other side of the river. Now, from that location to get to the other side of the river, there's a bridge 34 kilometers up and another one 21 kilometers down. He said, well, I was not afraid, but he said, we were both wet as if we came out of a shower. And they both had like pimples in back of the neck. They put implants. Okay, then this becomes a thing where we talk about it to ourselves. When you tell the wife, what were you drinking, what were you smoking, that kind of same thing happens when you tell people. So we kept this as an inside story to ourselves. Now, this is 1991, and in 2003, I'm in Vancouver, and we got one of our employees going up there He's got his girlfriend working in the lab also, and he's bringing in supplies. It's a snowstorm in Vancouver. And to get up there on a night like that, you got to go through Whistler, which was the skiing area of Vancouver. Past that, then you get into the valley, and you find yourself with maybe 2 feet of snow or something like that. You got to drive carefully. It depends. It takes maybe 8-9 hours a trip at that time of year. Anyway, to make the long story short, he leaves the house after dinner. It was 8:05, and he was going to pick up a thermos full of coffee. At the time, we did not have Starbucks around, so he had to go to the Italian area of Vancouver and get some espresso coffee, which takes about 20 minutes by car on a good night, not with snow. He gets to the same curve up in the valley. He gets engulfed by light, same scenario that happened with my brother, and he finds himself in the middle of a snowfield. He gets out of the car, and around the car is like a circle, caught in the snow, which was about 2 feet of snow, caught in the snow right down to the sand. And he realizes after a while, we had on the other side of the river, we had prepared a landing strip, was on a dirt, with put cement on it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he looked at the clock, was not even 10 o'clock at night. Mind you, I left Vancouver at 8:05 from our house in West Vancouver to go get the coffee and then start the trip. Then I had some friends working with the alphabet services in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about these things. And they confirmed to me, we have about 28 to 29 alien races living on our planet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This was information given to me. So I got very much involved in that. I was begging my brother to try to get rid of these implants that they had put in them. And apparently, on the research I made, over 30 million people got this kind of treatment. And it's been going on for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So this was outside of the business area what took place. And then the situation with Peter and all, after a while, the science disappears. And going back to on the phone calls and everything else that was done, we figured out what took place. We were 98 times on American television. On that one, it was articles, including the Washington Post, which I had asked not to be quoted name, but they referred to me as the Canadian partners. And after that one, I really refused to go out and patent anything. So the next thing I got involved was nanotechnology in the year 2000. And I had just opened my investment bank in New York. It was a brokerage firm, money management in Upper Manhattan. It was really a boutique. And I got in a squabble practically with Mossad. They wanted this technology. I had as partners of development of that for the research and all Fiat, which is the car company of Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a research center. We were researching within their centers in Italy, and I had a Italian company, an SPA company, set up for that. Anyway, all of a sudden, I had taken one of, well, somebody which owned a fund in Bermuda and one in Nassau, Bahamas. The owner, this was in Toronto, a certain Harold Arviv. When I introduced the nanotechnology, I held a reception at the New York Athletic Club in New York. And this guy doesn't show up. He was supposed to be the financier of $40 million we're supposed to put into the company. He had guaranteed to put it in. He doesn't show up. I found out this guy here was one of those hunters of after Munich. I don't know if you remember or you heard about when in Munich, the Israeli Olympic team got attacked.
72. Yeah.
And then they put out all the hunters to go out and find them all and murder them all over Europe. Anyway, he was one of the guys in charge of that. I found out later because
Wow.
I some inquiry through the State Department in the United States. At the time, I had the brother of Richard Nixon as one of the directors of my companies. And through him, I had a lot of insight into contacts with Pentagon people and the services in the United States. So it was easy for me to check this out. Oh, surely enough, a few weeks later, they approached Fiat. And Fiat contacts me. They want to use our technology. They were trying to build a little bird. And my emphasis on the technology was really for use. I was developing super filters, gigantic screens, paints to change color, a voice command, and all that kind of stuff. And I did not want to get involved with the militaries, particularly after the experience I had with the fractal technology. But I did not say no right away. I said, well, it's not our priority right now. Anyway, they attacked me on Wall Street. You couldn't believe with this nanotechnology. It was a public company. I was the chairman of it. They attacked me and took away from me close to $70 million. And after that, I sue everybody. And the SEC, the SEC goes out 5 years later and sanctions me. You couldn't believe the power they had on the Wall Street area.
Yeah.
These particular people I'm talking about. Actually, 2 years ago, I was talking to a fellow by the name of Katz in Tel Aviv, which was interested in one of my projects. He calls me up. And his brother was Minister of Defense at the time. And he calls me up and says, Robert, I cannot do a deal with you. I said, why? He said, you've been classified in Israel as the enemy of the state.
Wow.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And I was really hoping one of these days things would change. So I got very, very much excited when Trump came in. Actually, I did not realize what he was doing right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I really realized that he was on the good side because, you know, sometimes you don't look at things with attention and it's passing by. You know, when you see him going a place like England, walking along with the Queen, walking in front, you figure this guy is clumsy or something like that. But it was all symbolic of what he really was doing. He was showing that she had given up things. Understanding later what took place, and I was excited. You couldn't believe.
Yeah.
Because I was very also with this friend of mine, David, which we know each other. We were 16 years old. It's also a Nixon on this money reset that was being planned.
Yeah.
The good one, not the one planned by the Europeans.
Yeah.
So this, and with that, we share information on a daily basis on the going on that take place. And actually, I get a letter every morning on this matter, and I should probably forward it to you.
Oh, I'd like to see that. And so I mean, you just skimmed through 60 years nearly of adventures.
Oh no, we go back. We can go back. We can go back.
I don't know. It's great. It's great. It's just like, you know, there's a lot to take in. And so you started out just going, you know, ambitious young man, went for the stock trading, became the youngest. What were you? The youngest.
I was the youngest president of any public company in North America.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. So you must have been hard at it, and then you got into the gold mines, and was that in Canada, the gold mines?
Yes, in Canada. It's here in British Columbia.
Yeah,
right here in British Columbia. We got into that in 1969.
So I'm just going to tell you a little story here because I don't know if this relates or not, but it's interesting. I don't know if Didi told you about when I was in British Columbia in 1987, and I was on an exchange with the Royal Canadian Air Force because I was in the Royal Air Force, and I went up in a Cessna with a young girl, and her dad was an F-16 pilot, and we flew around Vancouver Island, and then she did a steep turn and pointed down at this huge house, and said that's the headquarters of the Satanists. This is on the intercom. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, that's if you don't know how to get to that house, you can't find it. But that's where it is. So this is
Well, I don't know if you're aware, in Vancouver Island, they had the big adrenochrome factory,
well,
which got taken out.
this is all making sense now. This is because what I'm saying is I was in Canada, and that's when I first learned about how it's the first time I had an inkling that this was going on. And then later on, I got into the work of Kevin Arnett. You heard of him?
No, I haven't.
So he set up the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State.
Oh, yes. I'm very bad with names, Mark.
That's okay.
I heard about it. Yes. Actually, I discovered with why the last pope, not this one here, the one previous one, why he resigned overnight. It was a very funny story, that one.
Well, that was because of Kevin Arnett. They tried him and found him guilty of genocide and all sorts of stuff. And they found the Queen guilty at the same time, because the Queen and Prince Philip, there were 16 missing children in the woods in Canada that went out for lunch in 1966, and they never came back. So what's amazing is that you know there you are, going about your business, being successful, and then this thing that happened in the UK in 1976-77. Firstly, what was the book called that was about?
The book is called In Gold We Trust. Actually, I should get Didi to send you a PDF copy of it.
In Gold We Trust. I'd like to read that. Yeah. So, why were they trying to? The amount of money they were trying to say that you was it a fraud case?
Yeah.
But was bigger than the US gross domestic product.
Well, you know, but I was when the story goes. The book tells all the story in any event. Actually it's a very exciting book.
Yeah, sounds it. Has there ever been a movie made of this?
I had an offer. Tell you what, I had an offer back after the case finished in London by BBC, and there was Chapman Pincher, the writer. He was a political writer. He was going to write the book. Then they were planning a special of 1 hour and a half on TV with BBC. At the time, I was working as an advisor. After the case, I set up another brokerage firm in Italy, and I took a public company and created the third market in Italy, in Milan. But I was working as an advisor, or I was doing some jobs for the vice president of Italy, Loris Fortuna, which I had my company offices in Rome for Europe, were in his offices in Rome. And he did not want me to create any more publicity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So we stopped the program. But then I figured the book is going to get written. So a lawyer got involved, a lady lawyer got involved. She took a 1 year leave of absence. She traveled the world, and she interviewed every single body that was involved with this book, lawyers and everything else in London, Italy and all. And she wrote the book. Then they put it together and she published it while I was under arrest in Italy for another phony case. But they came up with a figure out of their closet. I don't know where they came up with it. They just dreamed it up. But it was so ridiculous what they did, which created such a frenzy in the media. There was over 1,200 articles written worldwide on this. Out of that, maybe 200 were front pages in different newspapers throughout the world. Of course, they were slandering us of being part of mafia, all kinds of things. At one point, they were having us supplying arms to Gaddafi, sponsoring the IRA in Ireland. When you get involved with the media, they go nuts. And they were doing all kinds of crazy things with us.
But what was the objective? The people
stop us. You see, what happened in Quebec was this. We were very successful. I started off in music. I was 14 years old. And I immigrated to Canada. You know, the immigrants. We had to make do to start a new life in Canada. But my mother had taught us, myself and my twin brother, to play guitar at a very young age. Coming to America, the music was 1957. Music was what it was. Elvis Presley was rocking and rolling, and everything was happening. And we started playing guitar, imitating and learning rock and roll, let's say. Okay.
What a great time to
And
do that.
yeah, yeah. And we got involved. I mean, escalation. Initially, we were doing Bob's dance party. I would have these school halls and do all that every weekends. But it turned out it became a business to us because I worked for 1.5 years in a bank after graduating in school. My salary at the time was $40 a week. In one night, I used to make $1,500 doing that.
Exactly.
So, it was
It's a no-brainer.
that was the last job I ever had because I did that to please my mother. So we stopped the music. It got to a point by 1962. We first I opened a place called The Cave, imitating what was happening in London with the Beatles in Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
Yeah.
The Cavern.
We used to call the place here the Cave. And I started bringing in musicians like the Jimi Hendrix and all those days, like black musicians, I say black, color musicians or color music was not really played in North America. They weren't even able to get their music on radio stations.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we were always traveling to New York to get our new records and things like that. And we ran into the Apollo Theater. After a while, we made a deal with the Apollo to have all their artists come and do their gigs at our places.
Yeah.
So I opened a place called Apollo in Montreal at the time, fitted maybe 1,200 people. And it became the temple of music.
Brilliant.
On a night, you would have three acts like Joe Tex, Sweet Inspirations, Diana, everybody that was anybody played there.
Did you ever meet Johnny Cash?
Johnny Cash, I met him just passing on one of his concerts, but he wasn't the kind of music at the time I was really keen on for. Okay.
Okay, fair play.
And also the music of Presley wasn't really what was really driving the music scene. So to the exception of Cash and the country music singers, Presley, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., and Dean Martin, everybody else worked for one of my places sometime or another.
Wow.
Because after that, when this place Apollo opened, after 6 months we're open, we get an offer and we get broadcasted in 148 radio stations in the United States live, and it became Saturday night at the Apollo.
Wow.
So I was the voice, and I didn't even realize the power I had with the people. Because I had to make jokes and, from one record to another, do that. From 8 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning, it was my voice driving on the beat. Okay.
That's amazing.
After during this period here, by 1965, the people that promoted and started this Hullabaloo, you still find it on YouTube, was a TV show called Hullabaloo. They came to us and we opened up in 1 year 148, we call them franchises, throughout from Canada all the way to Miami.
Wow.
And every one of them had live music. So you can imagine we had to book 148 groups.
Yeah.
And this was like 4 nights a week. We were making a pile of money and we started investing. I had good lawyers at the time in Montreal. And we started investing in acquisitions. I owned 3 hotels at the time, some historical buildings in Montreal, still in existence. I had a all-terrain vehicle company and advertising boutiques, a clothing manufacturing company, and all that. During this period here, we decided to go into the stock market. It took me about 8 months to buy a majority of a company listed on the Montreal Stock Exchange. And then I went on to be elected president of the company. Objections from the securities commissions and everything else. Anyway, that ended up with a 6-hour hearing in front of the commission, and I became the youngest president of any public company in North America.
Wow.
Okay. Of course, the music brought us to be liked by what you might call the establishment, because being an immigrant, not everybody befriends you, you know.
Yeah.
Considering that we're in Canada, Italy had been at war 10 years before or 15 years before.
Yeah.
So things were as they were.
Yeah.
But the fact that we were in entertainment, all the young, that column of from these established families, the Simars, the Sullivans, they were all became our friends. We were all friends going and doing things. So give us an insight into the establishment and everything else. I mean, the people that sponsor Trudeau, father, I know him very well because the house of the
Trudeau's father was Fidel Castro.
yes. But is
I know.
okay. So all these people here.
Pierre Trudeau, wasn't it? The Prime Minister of Canada.
Their area, But you know, he had gone to Russia for a couple of years, getting indoctrinated. He was basically, he had a very good way of becoming like a popular pop hero with his little stunts. But he put Canada in a big mess because up to his era, Canada was one of the leading economies in the world.
Well, so many resources, so much land. It's amazing. I mean, it's an incredible country, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but what they did was they started creating national parks, blocking all the mining world. And you were able to sell your gold in Canada. They had offices all over the country, in every single city, where you could bring your physical gold and sell it. They closed all those up. They went out and hid all the technologies for the platinum group. You can't find one text in any university right now which still talks about platinum or the systems of doing it. They start doing loans to countries that would never pay them back. They had to put Canada in debt.
Yeah.
Those days, a Canadian dollar was worth 138 US up to 1968, 69, when they decided to do all this. Well, Pierre Elliott was part of this. Knowing what things, the way things work today, he was taking orders from the Privy Council, which is run by London, City of London.
So you had, while you were in the middle of this, so you've been really successful, you're 24, 25. Did you, and you got introduced to the elite families of Canada and beyond. At the time, was there any inkling about what they were really doing? Because with retrospect, it's easy to see what they were doing, but at the time, you were probably just heady with it and enjoying the parties and the girls and everything else. I'm guessing.
Yeah, but I never thought to it. I mean, that weird things happen all the time. You see that because living for a couple of years in Hollywood and being in the music business, I would have seen all kinds of things. I mean, when we used to bring in the Rolling Stones, 2 days before, there's a party going and there's no stops. And every month we used to bring in a group touring. By the way, I brought the first time the Rolling Stones in North America, I brought them.
Really?
Yeah. And I must say, it's the only concert I lost money with.
Oh, really? Was it too early? Too early.
I was sitting at the Apollo, and this disc jockey, his name was Lord Timothy from England, shows up. He was one of the hot disc jockeys from these pirate radio stations. You remember those days, right?
Radio Caroline was the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He comes over and he's got this, not even a record, he's got the tape of a song called Little Red Rooster.
Yeah.
So it's a new group. Want to bring them in. So I brought them in. That day was sunny in Montreal. I got 8,000 people for the concert in a hockey arena. Of course, I made the money back. I must not say that I lost money with the Rolling Stones because on 2 more occasions I made lots of money with them. Actually, I had a girlfriend, Sandy Sotomayor, which was very, very good friends. They were like sisters with Bianca Jagger.
Yeah.
Okay, so we used to team up every 2, 3 weeks and go down to Club 54 in New York and things like that. This is later in the early 80s.
That's the 80s, yeah.
Actually, when I was living in Nassau, Mick Jagger showed up. He stayed a month down there. He came with a sailboat from New York. Fun guy.
Yeah,
But
I don't want to say I don't want to say anything about Mick Jagger apart from the fact that I find it amazing that they're still gigging and they're about 90, and I always wonder how they've managed to do that. That's all I'm saying. I can't say.
well, there's a little help here and there.
And all those DJs around the Radio Caroline time, people like Jimmy Savile, Tony Blackburn, Alan Freeman, all of those guys, extremely dodgy. So.
Oh yeah, well, you know,
but when you're in the middle of it, you don't know all of that. And one thing, have you ever seen an interview with Aaron Russo and Alex Jones? Aaron Russo was a Hollywood producer. He had a similar story to you. He was managing Bette Midler as a singer, I think in the 60s, and made a lot of money in New York, and then became a Hollywood producer. And he made Trading Places. He made a lot of money off Trading Places, the Eddie Murphy film from the early 80s. And the interview, he was interviewed I think it was in the early 2000s by Alex Jones. And that interview was amazing because he talked about how he'd made a lot of money. He had clubs, he had music going on in the 70s, 60s and 70s. And then the 80s, he was making movies. And he got taken aside by Nick Rockefeller. He became friends with Nick Rockefeller. And then I'm just wondering whether this ever happened to you. So he was at dinner one night and Nick said to him along the lines of, by the way, we're going to microchip everybody. We're going to take away all their money. We're going to take away cash. We're going to take away rights to property. And I don't know if he actually said we're going to kill most of them, but I think it was kind of inferred that was going to happen. So he was told the plan in the 90s, right? And he said to Nick, well, hang on, I'm one of them. And he said, well, you're not one of them anymore. Look, you're rich now. You're one of us now. He was being invited into the club.
Yeah.
As George Carlin said, into the big club. Did that ever happen to you? Did you ever get a conversation like that with any of these people? Did they?
Not to that extent exactly to the plan, but some hints were being given. When I was in Rome, I had offices in Rome, so I was there quite often, and I had an apartment out there. I got invited to be part of the Knights of Malta, those things. I always pass these things. I don't want to be involved.
So you did. That's what I was going to say. You did get invited in.
Oh yes. So I didn't want to go.
You just turned it down.
I didn't feel like I got to be part of Knights of Malta to do what I got to do.
Well, you know, for anybody watching this, go and research the Knights of Malta. We're talking Jimmy Savile, Tony Blair, Nelson Mandela. The covenant they sign is horrific. It's worth going and having a look at that. What's interesting, I mean, it's similar with me because I had a business career and I had a showbiz career and all of that. And I got invited a couple of times and and then do you know what they said to me? They said, they started to invite me and then they went, oh no, this wouldn't be right for you. And I go, what do you mean? Why not? And they said, well, you know, you're too confident. You don't need what we've got. And I was like, that's really interesting because they kind of want to suck you in if you've got this insecurity or this weakness that lends you towards psychopathy, because then you become powerful within this organization and you start taking your own back on people. So it's interesting that you did get invited, but you turned it down, because a lot of people in your position would have definitely not turned it down because they would have felt like it would have advanced their career and made them more money. That's the reason why most people do it, right?
Well, another invitation, of course, another invitation I got was when we got approached to be part of the CSIS. But they wanted us to be able to help them out, bring the stock exchange in Montreal down. Actually, the facts after it's all finished, they destroyed 1,532 companies.
Wow.
Which one of them was my company there. So when they approached us initially, they approached with money, contacts, do anything you want, but you got to do this, this, and this. Some of the people that were trying to take down were some of the fathers of the people that were my friends.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm not interested in this. Another approach was made when I was recording with Warner Brothers. At the time, the people that were managing us, one of them was Clive Davis. He's probably right now one of the most influential person in music in the United States. He was holding a party in the hotel where Whitney Houston killed herself.
Allegedly killed herself, yeah.
Yes. Of course. And Clive definitely is a Satanist.
Oh, yeah. You don't mind saying that on the internet?
That's right. No, that's why I'm trying to curtail myself on this here. He was not one of the nice guys, let's say.
No.
And he was inviting to do certain things, which, you know what, I left the music to record myself and appear in public, particularly basing myself on how corrupt already the whole establishment was, trying to get in everybody's pants.
Yeah.
So I said, no, I don't need that. I promoted and I don't need that. I was still performing in my own clubs at times, but I did not want to be part of that.
So this is so did it wear you down to the point where, is that why you exited? Because you just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore? Or was it just because?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your, can I ask
I didn't want anything to do with that. But I never thought the whole problem was so big.
Well, you don't, because you only see it what's in front of you. You don't realize it's all connected all over the world, do you? But can I ask you a question, Robert? You grew up in Italy.
Yeah.
So I assume you're a Catholic.
I was born Catholic. I stopped frequenting going to church or confessing myself at the age of 12 because I was doing confession. You know, as a kid, you go out to the priest and I took a candy or something. This guy comes out of the confessional booth he has and starts giving me a bollocking. I said, no more with it. I don't need you to talk to God. Hell with it.
You can tell, you've spent time in England, because there's only English people that say bollocking. They don't say that in Canada, do they?
Yeah, well, you know, I stayed 2 years in London. I learned a bit of English.
Yeah, I think so. So what do you say to the priest? I'm done.
I'm done with you. Even though, you know, in high school, we used to get up early in the morning to go and read the psalm and everything else, because it was a mixed school of boys. It was 1,500 boys and 1,500 girls. It was a huge school, in the morning at 8 o'clock, you go in and you read. So this is show off to the girls. We used to do that, but that was that.
Yeah.
But no.
So you left the church behind when you were 12. So I'm wondering, you know, there you are making a lot of money, mid-20s. You're in the stock exchange. You're getting. Well, did you have a relationship with God at that point or not?
Yes, I to pray. I always prayed myself. I talked to him. I don't need somebody to be in front of me to be my intermediary to go talk to God.
Yeah. Okay.
Then I started learning that we're all God.
Yeah. Yeah.
The 3 magic words: I am God.
Yeah.
We're all part of God. We're all gods.
We are. I know. Wonderful. So this big fraud thing that happened. They were doing that because they wanted to stop you doing what you were doing, but you ended up winning. Did they end up stopping you what you were doing?
Well, they tried, because then throughout many years, the Canadian authorities would not be able to, were actually interfering with what I was doing. Because I had this mining project I was developing in Europe. So I'm making contacts with people. Some people take visas to come over and stuff like that. And I got them a few times. Once I had one of a billionaire out of Egypt getting his visas to come to Canada, and he got contacted by the ambassador to Egypt of Canada, tell him not to come to Canada for these deals. Okay. After we finished in London, when my brother came back here, they were trying to do some funny things here. We got 14 RCMP suspended here. 14. And the fellow was that at CSIS too got in troubles, because some people came on our side to help us out.
I'm just going to explain.
And I thought the whole problem was over with them, except back in 1988, 89. they come up with a funny story here, again done by the RCMP, that I was running and I want to change the Prime Minister of British Columbia. And they made such a, this thing was on TV. Actually, I got it all recorded. This was another story invented all this, except that story aborted a $200 million financing I had already prepared in Europe with a Swiss bank and a New York bank.
Wow. I'll just explain to the audience, the RNCP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they're the guys with the red and the horse. They represent the Queen. They work for the Queen, basically, don't they?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, in Canada. I did an after-dinner speech at the governor of British Columbia's house in 1987. It was the worst thing I ever did. I wish that the ground would swallow me up.
Well, I was living here at the time.
Yeah, you were probably there. So let's move on to the aliens, because you know you've been mixing with the elites there. You've had some tough experiences, but you survived it all. In fact, I'm surprised. Has anyone tried to assassinate you?
They tried, but they didn't succeed.
Is that as far as you want to go with that story, or do you want to tell me more?
They made attempts to be involved. No, we might as well don't bring that up. It involves too many people.
Okay, fair enough. But it doesn't surprise me. But then, Peter Olson, the Palladium.
Yeah.
Did he look like a human being?
I tell you what, you've seen Star Wars, Star Trek,
Yeah.
the program.
Yeah.
You remember the way Spock looks?
Yeah.
Except he didn't have those ears. Exactly like Spock, about 6 foot tall. A Spock. Exactly like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've heard this before about 28. In fact, I've heard 900 alien species that we're doing business with intergalactically, but who knows whether that's true. But you've had it from the horse's mouth or the Palladian's mouth. And what I'm really interested in, this 75-year-old guy who looked 32, he was on a table. You watched him on a table with these meat hooks in, saying that there was no, and they said there was no blood in there.
Correct.
What does
Correct,
that?
yeah.
I don't understand. Is that because they were trying to give him why were they putting meat hooks into him?
I tell you what, I didn't follow that discussion, because then I went into the terrace and I stayed about 10 minutes listening to my brother telling me the story, what happened to him when he was traveling to Port Douglas, the mining site. But during dinner, I told everybody what took place in Canada. And the next morning, we were all in Colorado, in Denver, taking a plane, and we went up to the mining site, and we stayed 4 days with all the gang together. And during this period here, in the morning, they used to get up and do some exercises. I did martial arts. I did the taekwondo, I did judo and all that. But these people were doing exercise I'd never seen in my life before. There was one little guy in that group from New York, which that night at dinner, he presented me a thing with about 10 pages, 12 pages, a new charter on how to run the world.
Ooh.
I still have it someplace in my paraphernalia around the papers. And he was a little guy, which you thought you don't want to breathe too close because you might knock him down, right? We have a little lake in front of the camp we were at, and there's a platform. And under the platform is about 15 feet to 18 feet of depth before you get down to the bottom. He loses his glasses.
Yeah.
Without blinking an eye, takes off his jacket, dives in. He stays down 3 minutes. We thought he was dead until he came back with the glasses.
Whoa.
Then this relation soured up a bit with Peter, because after the disappearance of Taylor, I had the last run with him at Goldman Sachs in New York. And then I invited them to come down to the sidewalk. We went down from the 30th floor down. And I said, Peter, you got to tell me what happened to Taylor. You told me you were a Palladian. I never told you that. He denied everything you told me. And after that, while we were searching and going after Taylor, we had private detectives. We had all kinds of things looking after to find him. At the time, we were in a negotiation with Portland Cement, which is part of the Carlyle Group, anyway, we had them interfering with properties on an island out here. So we're negotiating with them to sell them the limestone and make a deal with them. Anyway, I was going around at the time with one of the Indian chiefs here. We go down for this meeting at a legal firm in Portland, and they told me in no uncertain terms, stop looking for Taylor. So it wasn't lawyers. And thank God you're still breathing, thanks to your friends.
Wow.
Take the message.
Wow.
At that time, I told the father of Taylor what took place. I flew to LA, had a meeting with him. He says, I got to continue on this. 2.5 months later, in Montana, he falls off the roof.
I kind of knew you were going to say that.
Okay. So, little incidents here and there. But even though these things were happening, I wasn't tying in everything together. See?
Yeah.
I started doing that when the Pope resigned, the last one, the one before this one.
Ratzinger.
And I got, what's the reason why he resigned? So I get all the papers through internet of this tribunal in Europe about the accusations and all that.
Yeah.
And that night when he resigned, that morning when he resigned, the night before, the Pope leaves the Vatican. He goes to meet with the president of the country, because we have a prime minister, we have a prime minister and president, right? He goes to meet with the president. And he must have had, the president must have had these arrest warrants on hand, right? What am I going to do with this? So they decided it's a strategy. He resigns the next morning.
Yeah.
And he was hiding in the Vatican till recently when he went to visit his brother, was sick in Germany.
Yeah.
He was hiding in the Vatican, afraid to go out. I
heard that. Do you think he's still around now? Because the Vatican's been cleared out, hasn't it?
Well, I tend to believe what we know, that they're all been dealt with.
Yeah.
But I was speaking actually this morning to a friend of mine in Italy, which I've been telling him, he was working with the Vatican. And I told him, look, this is no. The Vatican yesterday made a speech. I said, is it really him? Well, they're all convinced and believing what they want to believe. But I think they've been dealt with. It's particularly what I heard from the figures that were taken out of the Vatican on the cleanup they did, 40 quadrillion worth of arts, gold and money.
650 Galaxy class planes.
Yeah. The figure they're giving, and I heard that from, actually it was from Charlie Ward, the program, was 40 quadrillion.
It's a big number.
Yeah. Well, they've been stealing for 2,000 years.
Yeah. And then you add the Queens into that. So this was, when did Ratzinger resign? It was about 8 years ago, wasn't it? 8 or 10 years ago?
He resigned, it's about 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Hard to remember the date. So that was the first time that you actually started seeing the bigger picture? About 6, 7, 8?
Yeah.
So was it a shock to you when you start? Because what happens is you start going, oh, and then the whole picture starts emerging, and then most people get freaked out and then stop because it's too scary.
I feel that I'm fighting the minions, and really you got to fight the heads. But it was not at my reach to be able to do that at the time, because I tend to speak a lot, and sometimes I got to watch my tongue on what I say in certain circles, because not only that it take me a bit wacko, but you never know who's listening to you.
I know, but there does come a point in your life where you go, well, that's how they got away with it for so long, because people stay quiet. Because
I have no intention of staying quiet anymore. I'm out to tell everything as it is. Actually, I tried. I did a video with Christina, which you interviewed, and I was talking about the Vatican, and I said a few nasty things. I said the truth, really, of what I know. They took that thing off YouTube just last week.
Yeah, they will. They will do that.
So
They
you
don't
have
like
no.
the truth.
I mean, with the way they're operating now, they're censoring everything that goes on. Until it's all cleaned up here, we're not going to be able to speak freely about the way we feel or the facts we know, because everything is being censored
100%.
completely.
It is. Even my poems are being censored, and that's poetry.
Unreal, unreal.
Yeah, for medical misinformation. I'm like, it's a poem. It's.
Yeah.
I do find a humor in all of this because it's the craziest time. I mean, it's a real privilege to be here, and I imagine, Robert, the kind of person that you are, what I've gathered from you in the last hour, I imagine you have ideas about the future, things that you'd like to see. I mean, would you?
Yeah, that, and I want to contribute and bring my contribution to do certain things. I'm very much involved now in new technologies, which I want to bring forward to help the rebuilding of this new world. And through the gold mines and the precious metals, because not just gold, I'm very rich in rare earths and the platinum group. And we got something interesting where, for this money reset, I've been approached actually with a friend of mine, which is working on this money reset with the people in not Vegas, in Reno. They're going to be involved with that. So bringing these technologies to help a bit clean up Earth and put the remedy to all the damage that has been done, because mining is a very destructive business. So I'm bringing in some technologies that are not going to be harmful to the environment. And I got the technologies. They were all invented in Europe. Initially, there was 3 scientists who did that, a German, an Austrian, and an Italian, and 2 of them have disappeared. But I closed a deal with them all to have all these technologies for North America. And right now they're operating in Italy at the old Lancia plant in Piedmont over there. So I got practically a free reign to establish these technologies from Alaska to Argentina.
Well, it's very interesting because if there are 28 alien species here, that means there is intergalactic or at least interdimensional travel. If the deep underground bases are real, which they are, then they've got mining technology that's way beyond anything that we understand now.
Yeah.
Tesla, as most people know, all of his stuff got suppressed and hidden for over 100 years. So, that technology. Say again.
All those technologies are going to be coming out now.
That's what I mean. So, so anything that's currently in our world, in our 3D world, that's a new technology, won't it be obsolete as soon as that stuff comes out?
Well, I presented these technologies with these people from working with the Reno group on this money reset, and they have very much heavy money to invest, because they call them prosperity programs, which they're going to be doing, which involve many, 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 many billions of dollars. And some of the technology I presented to them, they're interested in launching them with me.
That's
They promise also. Yeah, some of them are quite innovative, and they might be a part of what we're going to be doing. I mean, we have technologies that destroy garbage completely with no fumes at all going out. So we solve those problems. We solve the problems of all tires, plastics, besides the mining technologies. So some of these technologies will be used. Actually, they're planning to build a new city here in British Columbia, in a place they call Garibaldi Park, for about 50,000 people, which will be self-sustaining and all. And they're opening a industrial park, which they're suggesting to me to put the manufacturing to manufacture here in North America to be able to meet the supply demand that's going to be generated with this.
Wow, this is amazing stuff. And if the med beds come out, you can go back to being 30 and start your band again.
That's what I'm hoping for.
So am I.
I got many things to do. You know.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and learn the guitar again because I never quite mastered it.
You know what? I just picked up mine again, and I'm starting to freshen up because I've been stale on it for a while.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll do a country album soon enough when we meet someplace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is interesting because I'm seeing creativity popping up everywhere. I'm getting poems sent to me, songs sent to me. My son's writing music. Never wanted to do that until like 2 weeks ago. This shift in energy is definitely definitely a lot of positive things going on. And you feel optimistic about the future and that all this crap is being dealt with, and we've got this new financial system coming, and it's an exciting future.
I think the financial system, where it's coming, there's nothing that can stop it right now. There's, you know, and the things are going to play out very quickly because we're going to play out within this month with the timing there is. If they're going to be reestablishing the old republic and make it public and everything else by March.
Do you believe that's going to happen?
It looks like it. Yeah, looks like it. I think it's going to happen.
It looks like it to me. I know people who watch these videos, they take a note of the dates and then they get past the dates and they go, oh, it didn't happen. And it's like, I'm kind of like fluid with it because I already know the outcome intuitively.
You know, everybody was expecting that the day of the inauguration, the Marines will walk in, arrest everybody. It doesn't work that way, you know.
It's actually what they're doing is far better. It's
of course.
Yeah, it's just everybody just wants it to end. It's just like, come on.
Everybody wants to be in an Hollywood film.
Yeah. It doesn't work that way, does it?
You know, but we can't put our guard down because there's many of them. And having the attitude, we already won and it's fine. No, we got to be active throughout here and help out because we all got to push our energies, whatever we're going to be doing this year, and make people aware and wake people up. We can't just sit back. Oh, it's already won. We'll wait and wait for people to send us a check. It doesn't work that way.
No, I agree.
We got to be active.
Well,
I'm planning.
Sorry.
As I told you, I'm planning to participate in this rebuilding of Earth and help out where I can. It's my last mission in life, which I want to do. I've been here for a long time.
Your legacy.
I know I'm a Pleiadian. I've been around for a long time waiting for this. So the time has come.
Well, I'm glad you're on the team. Just amazing to talk to you, and an amazing story. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share it with us.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to congratulate you because you are very much a fountain of information and of helping calm people down with their anxiety and all. Watching you operate and watching Charlie operate, you bring peace and tranquility, and that's a good feeling to have, you know.
Well, thank you.
And I thank you for that. You're doing a great job there.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate that. So I'm gonna say good night because it's night time for me. Got to make sure the boys are in bed. But let's chat soon. Let's chat again.
It would be a pleasure, and thank you very much for having me on with you.
No, thank you very much. You take care.
You take care. Thank you.
Ciao.